Welcome to Silicon Wafers. And in this one, we look at some of the largest drone strikes carried out by Ukraine in the war so far. Ukraine has conducted the largest drone assault on Russian infrastructure of the war so far. Fires are reported at two power plants and an oil refinery in the Moscow region, with 158 Ukrainian drones apparently targeting multiple regions, including Moscow, Tver, Voronezh, Tula, Kaluga, Bryansk, Belgorod, Lipetsk, and Kursk. This is according to Russian officials, but also eyewitnesses, residents of those areas. The attacks follow Russia's concerted attempts to degrade and destroy energy infrastructure across Ukraine to make cities unlivable and create misery for Ukraine's citizens. The scale of these Ukrainian strikes suggests a significant advancement in Ukraine's drone capabilities. 158 was the number of drones reported by the Russian Ministry of Defense, so the true number of drones that were actually launched may be far higher than this. It is an enduring frustration where multiple media outlets, certainly Western ones, begin their stories with quotes from Russian officials who invariably lie and do not put these quotes in proper context. It's been claimed that three of the drones were targeted at the Kashira coal-fired power station in the Moscow region. No victims were reported and the scale of damage is unknown, but there are no widespread reports of electricity outages in those targeted regions yet. But as is usually the case, footage filmed by residents seems to be at variance with the official reports. Huge explosions and fires can be seen at the plant in the videos. Fire was also reported at a strategic Moscow oil refinery in Kapotnya. The refinery is owned by Gazprom Neft, the oil division of Russian gas giant Gazprom. Footage has surfaced showing a helicopter assisting in extinguishing fires at the refinery. It's reportedly been classified as a level 5 incident, indicating the highest level of difficulty. Buildings and facilities in the frontline city of Belgorod were also damaged. Another fire broke out in Konakova power plant in the Tver region. The Konakova GRES is one of the largest power plants in central Russia and is ranked the 8th largest thermal power plant in the entire country. A gas storage facility in the area also apparently caught fire. Of course, the Russian Ministry of Defense claims to have shot down the majority of drones, but this information cannot be validated and must be treated with extreme skepticism. The highest concentrations of reported drones were in the Kursk area, 46, Bryansk, 34, and Voronezh, 28 regions. Despite the defense measures, the attacks resulted in critical infrastructure fires in many of those areas. And of course, reports and clarifications are still coming in. The barrage comes just days after Ukraine's energy infrastructure was targeted by over 200 Russian drones and missiles in one of the biggest such attacks launched by Russia. It is also nearly a month since Ukraine began its counteroffensive in Russia's Kursk region. Russia has made a point of targeting energy infrastructure since it began the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. Ukraine has been forced to adopt these tactics as the struggle for its very existence has become existential, but has typically focused on military targets and those with dual use. It also seems that restrictions placed on Ukraine, red lines that make no military sense at all, is also prompting Ukraine to take far more radical steps in its targeting of the Russian energy infrastructure. Well, we'll come to that point a little bit later in the episode. But Ukraine's strategy to only hit military targets is all well and good, but it has allowed many Russians to feel that the war is something taking place far away in a distant and foreign land, an operation rather than a war even, happening exclusively to other people. Ukraine's surgical strategic strikes and the extraordinary accuracy of its targeting has also led many Russians to think the war would not affect them or their families. But now that strategy is widening. Russia's economy is now a war economy. and millions of Russians participate in this economy of lethality, whether directly or indirectly through payment of their taxes. Striking against energy infrastructure may be the only thing that brings the consequences of its leaders' actions to the attention of ordinary Russians. The scale of these recent strikes suggests a significant advancement in Ukraine's technical drone capabilities, as well as their ability to scale production, matching the intensity of Russia's own air assaults on Ukrainian territory. The strikes have, of course, heightened tensions and raised questions about the security of critical infrastructure in Russia. Well, now we come on to the next story in this episode, and this is Russia's response to the Ukrainian incursions in Kursk. Russians are apparently wiping out Sudzha. Kiev's incursion into the Kursk Oblast is entering its fourth week, and we're starting to see how Russia intends on dealing with the occupation, and unfortunately, it's very predictable. Ukraine apparently controls over 1,290 square kilometers and 100 settlements in the Kursk region, says Commander-in-Chief Alexander Syrsky. Russian forces are apparently wiping out Sudzha, a city in the Kursk Oblast, with bombs. Alexander Pavlyuk, commander of Ukraine's ground forces, described these tactics on August the 31st as an attempt to wipe the Ukrainian captured town of Sudzha off the face of the earth. Remember, this is a Russian town, and several hundred of the city's original residents remain there. Apparently, the Russian propagandist slogan that Russia does not abandon its own, well, this promise isn't extended to the residents of Sudzha. Russia is regularly shelling Sudzha and attacking it with guided aerial bombs and kamikaze drones. Pavlyuk said Russian forces are destroying their own people. Despite the fact Sudzha is in the rear, Russians are trying to wipe it from the face of the earth. About 200 residents remain in Sudzha, which has a population of 5,000 before the offensive. Most of them are elderly or infirm, and for whom it would have been difficult to relocate, or who have no relatives to go and stay with. Ukrainian troops have been filming helping the residents of Sudzha according to international humanitarian law, Pavlyuk added. Sudzha is located less than 10 kilometers, 6 miles from the border with Ukraine, while the city of Kursk lies 85 kilometers or 53 miles to the northeast of Sudzha. Moscow has now reportedly redeployed about 30,000 of its troops from other sectors to the Kursk direction, and that number is growing, Syrsky said on August 27th. If rumors are true that the FSB oversees the operation, its likely success really needs to be questioned. But Russia's most combat-ready units are not being deployed there. They're being deployed in the Pokrovsk sector. This is, of course, extraordinary and suggests the gains of Ukrainian territory are a much higher priority for Putin than regaining Russian lands and towns. That is, propaganda victories seem to be his main priority. President Volodymyr Zelensky said that the ongoing Kursk incursion is one part of a plan for victory that he would present to the US President Joe Biden during a meeting in September. Given that the US is imposing restrictions on how Ukraine uses ATACMS and other munitions on Russian territory, it is a concern that Biden may not approve of Zelensky's plan. The red lines and restrictions, apparently triggered by the policy of escalation management, come with a tremendous cost. They amount to an appeasement of Russia, allowing it to use numerous airfields and drone launch sites located within a few hundred kilometers of Ukraine that deliver trauma, destruction, and murder to innocent people in Ukraine. Western weakness grants Russia immunity and impunity to kill and maim. And the events of today, Sunday, the 1st of September, show why this strategy of tying Ukraine's hands is deadly and, in many senses, is a collusion with unacceptable evil. Russia has attacked Kharkiv, injuring at least 47, including medics and children. It's reported there may be many, many fatalities. The Kharkiv Palace of Sports was destroyed, a popular civilian target hit during broad daylight and on a weekend. This is a move by Russia calculated to inflict the greatest number of casualties. Rescuers are continuing to dismantle the rubble of the sports facility as there may be people under it, Kharkiv Oblast Governor Oleg Sinibukov said. Energy infrastructure in Kharkiv also came under attack, the energy ministry reported. The ministry did not specify which facility was attacked or the extent of the damage. Russia is terrorizing Kharkiv again, Zelensky wrote on Telegram. All the necessary means for the rescue operation have been deployed, Zelensky said, adding, and all the necessary means worldwide should be involved to stop this terror. This requires not extraordinary means, but sufficient courage of the leaders, the courage to give Ukraine everything it needs to defend itself. And by courage, he means not only that the West needs to give Ukraine all the munitions it needs to repel Russian aggression, or they should do this, but it needs to allow Ukraine to hit the sources of the malice and aggression. Permission to take out the archer and not just shoot down some of the arrows. We are enabling a lottery of death to take place in Ukraine daily, and it's both stupid and immoral. Our timidity must stop, otherwise Russian aggression will only escalate.